Trustees Budget and Audit Committee. Okay, now that it's recording in progress, I will officially call the meeting to order. And I think our next thing is to ask for any public comment on non-agenda items.
There were none.
Okay. And then we have two sets of minutes that need approval, August 31st, December 7th. I did read them. I'm happy to move and help approve them, but I don't remember if all of you were at all those meetings.
I wasn't at the August.
Okay.
I was at August. But my question was, I don't know if I saw the December meeting minutes attached to the board docs.
Well, I thought I did, but I can be confused.
July and August are attached. Attached July and August.
It would have been
No.
August and December, we hope.
I see August and I see July,
Oh.
but I don't see the December minutes attached.
It's because it's the next item, Trustee Wing. So if you go, so number 3, it says approval.
Yeah, that's August, and that has the July and August, but December 7th doesn't have any attachments on it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see
Yeah.
what you're saying.
And then in terms of presence, I was not yet sworn in on the July meeting, so I was not present for that one, but I was there for the August meeting.
Okay, well, it sounds like we should approve the August minutes and not the December 7th. We'll do that next time.
Thank you.
So does someone want to make a motion to approve this?
Motion to
So
approve.
moved.
Okay, we'll take the motion from Alton, the second from Tammy. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now, it says we're supposed to talk 311Q, but I see we have our VIP from PARS on the line. So maybe in respect to your time, we'll skip down and go right to the PARS update. Is that all right with everyone if I just take the power of the chair to reorder? And Candace, I'll always turn it over to you and then let you go take it from there.
Yes, we're very thankful for our partners at PARS who very quickly came up with some slides for us today. And so I'm not sure if Eric is going to start or if it's Jennifer, but Jennifer and Eric have been wonderful, agents of the college and in stewarding and providing updates about our PARS investment. So I will turn over maybe to Eric and then maybe an introduction. We do have a new introduce yourselves and your roles at PARS since we have a new committee member.
Sounds good. Well, good evening, everyone. I see that the presentation has been shared. Thank you, Jennifer. My name is Eric O'Leary. I'm Executive Vice President with PARS. I'm actually completing my 30th year with the company and pleased to work with Pasadena City College for many years. We have been doing your OPEB and pension pre-funding for about close to 5 years, not quite 5 years. And we also have done multiple early retirements over the years that I've been involved with the district. So with me is also Jennifer Meza, who's going to walk you through some of the details later in the presentation or soon in the presentation. And she's a senior manager with our client services area and also consulting. So if you go to the next slide, Jennifer. This kind of gives you a graphical demonstration of the program that you folks selected. You did an RFP back in, I want to say 2018, I believe, where we were selected, and this is the group of folks that are involved with your program. So our company PARS that Jen and I work for is the administrator for the program. We do all the accounting. We talk to you folks, provide consulting and so forth on the program. Our company's been doing retirement programs and trusts for governments for nearly 40 years. 2,000, as you can see on the slide, 2,000 plans under administration, over 1,000 public clients. And so we only work with governments. My practice is exclusively education. I work with colleges and K-12 school districts primarily. And then our partners under this program are our trustee, U.S. Bank, and the investment company that does all the investments for the program is Vanguard. Everybody knows who Vanguard is, one of the biggest investment companies in the world, and U.S. Bank is one of the biggest banks in the United States. So two really large partners involved with your trust, a very solid financial footing for your program. And we also have a partnership with Community College League on the pension trust side of our program. So with that background, I'm going to let Jennifer take over and walk you through the statistics of the program and where everything stands at the moment.
And I'll just take a step back just for the new individual in the room today. The Section 115 trust that the district has allows the district to put money aside for an essential government function, such as retiree healthcare obligations and pension liabilities. The district has chosen to put money aside for both at this point in time. There is a private letter ruling for this program that exempts you from any taxes on any of those earnings on the account. Contributions are very flexible. It's up to the discretion of the district when you put money into the account, and reimbursements are also very flexible at the district's discretion as well for that. So just a little bit of background in case you needed that information on there. The district did adopt this program back in 2018. The district selects the investment strategy for the program itself, and you've selected for each portion of the trust the same investment strategy, which is called the conservative strategy. First, I'm going to talk about the money that you've put aside for the retiree healthcare obligations, and then I'm going to talk about the money that you've put aside for the pension obligations. So slide number 4 talks about the retiree healthcare money that you've put aside. Bottom information are your assets as of December 31st. You've contributed a total of $15 million into this portion of the account. You haven't taken any money out. Your investment earnings since inception, since the first contribution, have been over $1.3 million. And your account balance as of December 31st is $16.2 million. Slide number 5 shows you this information on a graphical representation. You can see when the contributions came in. No money has been taken out, and you can see how the assets have done throughout the different fiscal years. Slide number 6 shows you investment information for the program itself. On the right-hand side, the top shows you the return based on each fiscal year that you've had the funds in the trust. Bottom portion shows you the 3 month, the 1 year, and the 3-year return on there, and then the return from inception to date, which has been about 2%. And on the left-hand side, you can see the graph for those returns on the top. Again, this is for the OPEB portion on the account. Now, the next 2 slides, I'm going to go, and then I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm just going to take a quick pause there. So first, I'm going to say thank you, because that's a little different than the slide we were given, I think, right? Or no? Did I miss it?
Correct. Yes, we went ahead.
Yeah, so you did add the accumulative return section on that slide, and I want to thank you for doing that.
Of course, not a problem. We always want to make sure we provide you as much information as you need. In a couple of slides, Eric's going to go into more detail regarding the investments as well. So give you what the asset allocation and so forth. This is just the return information at this time. The next 2 slides go into what's called the actuarial valuation. So the district does measure the liability for your retiree healthcare. This report is done by Nyhart. We're simply summarizing the numbers here for you today. The benefit, it looks like there may be approximately 897 individuals that may be one day eligible for this program. The report is as of June 30th, 2021. So it's simply a snapshot in time. At that point, when the report was done, there were that many individuals that may become eligible for the program, which makes up active and, of course, retirees. Slide number 8. We went ahead and compared your latest report with the one prior to that. So you can take a look at the differences on there. The top right-hand side says what's called the discount rate, or the expected long-term rate of return from putting funds into a 115 trust. and of course, diversifying those assets. So your actuary gave you a discount rate of 5.25 on there. The total OPEB liability, or the liability that's accrued for this benefit, is approximately $32.9 million. The district, as of June 30th, 2021, had put aside $15.6 million into the trust, therefore making your unfunded liability, or the actuarial accrued liability minus your assets, at $17.2 million. That makes you about 47.6% funded at that point in time. So just a little, go ahead.
So sorry to interrupt you, Jennifer. And this question is, first of all, so far it's been helpful. Thank you for walking through some of these pieces. And this question might not even be for you guys, but maybe it's for Candace or Jesse. The money that we put into this account so far, on an earlier slide, there was the dates, that the years that we put it in. What enabled us to put the funds, these contributions in during those periods of time?
I mean, Jesse and I can speak to the recent contributions since we were responsible for those. I can't really say about the 18-19. I mean, maybe Trustee Martin can give us some clarity there. I think what we look for is in years where we can make adjustments, where we have additional funding, where we can contribute, we will. We actually will be making a contribution in coming weeks because we had committed to that in our fiscal audit report that we talked about in December, that we have an upcoming contribution that we'll be making. And we do that based on sort of what the budget looks like, what expenses we're having coming in, and then what we think we can pre-fund for future. Like we've gotten out of the pre-funding activity that we were doing in the past. We're actually budgeting those things, which frees up some funding to make additional contributions. So you'll see some go in this, like Jesse and I are working on the timing for that now.
So let me do the best I can, dusting off my distant memory.
Please.
So first off, just for clarity, what is the OPEB obligation? And I think the district made a commitment on all our retirees that we would contribute, I'm going to say the number in my mind is something like $1,440, but that may not be the right number, a year to any retiree to help supplement their medical benefits until they reach the age where they're eligible for Medicare. That's the way I remember that. But anybody on the staff that wants to correct me certainly can. So this really has nothing to do with PERS or STIRS or anything like that. This was something that we wanted to do for our staff because we realized if they retired before their Medicare eligible age, they need some help with their medical benefits. Previous to PARS, I believe we had one of those funds that we always see when they talk about the budget, like there's a capital improvement fund, and there's, you know, we have, they're all 2-digit numbers. They go from 28 to 64 or something, you know, all those kinds of funds. So I think we had, maybe been putting money into some of these funds, into a fund to help with this. And when we've learned about the PARS possibility, those funds, because they were part of the district's banking system, could only be invested at the LA County Treasury, which is kind of a black box. You don't really know what they're doing. You don't really get a very substantial return coming out of the black box. So I think when this became a possibility for us, the board approved doing it so that we could move the money out of fund, whatever number it was, and into PARS. It does become part of an irrevocable trust committed to this, but obviously we're going to be needing that. And we do have some flexibility, as he described, every year with how much we put in for that year or take out to make payments to support OPEB for that year. And then they're going to talk in a minute about something similar that we did for pensions. So that's the best recollection I can remember. But if somebody on the staff wants to research it and get you a more precise or a better answer, that's fine by
Oh,
me.
that's great. That's actually all I needed. Thank you.
Yeah, that gives you the high level anyway. Maybe I missed a number, maybe I missed a year, maybe I missed a fund, but you get the concept of what was
the
going
concept
on
makes
there.
sense. Thanks, John.
Yeah. Okay, so take it back, Eric and Jennifer, and
Perfect. Thank you.
those are good questions.
Perfect. Now we're going to talk about the second portion, as I mentioned, which is to put money aside for your pension liabilities. This portion also started back in 2018. As I mentioned, you have the same investment strategy, which is the Vanguard conservative strategy. Bottom portion shows you the assets for this specific portion of the trust. You've submitted a total of $5 million in contributions. You also have not taken any money out of the account for this portion. Your investment earnings since the first contribution or since inception, about $722,000, making your account balance as of December 31st at $5.6 million in the account. Slide number 11 also shows you when these funds were contributed. So you see in the fiscal year 2018, $4 million came in, following year $1 million on there. And then you could see how the assets have done throughout the fiscal years as well. Slide number 12 show you the historical returns as well. We went ahead and provided you the fiscal year returns as well as the annualized returns at the bottom as well. So you can take a look at that information as well. And as I mentioned, Eric's going to go into more detail regarding the investments in just a couple of slides. The pension portion on the account since inception has earned about 2.74% for you. The next two slides go over your pension information. Slide number 13 goes over the pension rates from CalSTRS and CalPERS. These are the different percentages. And then slide number 14 shows you the annual pension costs that we're going to see increasing from about $18.5 million to about $28 million on the account. Okay. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric to go into detail regarding the investments. But again, please feel free to stop us at any point in time to ask any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Jennifer. So as we start going over the investments, one of the first things I want to point out is Vanguard is your investment manager, and they're the ones that the district has contracted with to run the investments. And they run 4 different investment strategies that our clients can select from. They are actually one of a couple investment managers that you could have selected during our RFP process. The district decided to work with Vanguard, and then once they did that, they selected the investment strategy. And you've selected the conservative strategy. And as I was saying, Vanguard is your investment manager. Our company, PARS, is not licensed to give any investment advice. So what we're going to give you is information. We can't give you any recommendations or whatnot on the selections you've made. But as of now, you've selected the conservative strategy, which sits at approximately 60% fixed income and about 36% equity. And you can see the allocations by U.S. equity, non-U.S. equity, non-U.S. bonds, and U.S. bonds and real estate, all making up 100% of your allocation. So if you go to the next slide, this is, as I said, one of 4 different strategies. You're in the most conservative strategy that includes equities, that has, right about a 40-60 split. We have a more conservative, or Vanguard, more correctly, has a more conservative one, which would be 100% fixed income. And then in increased risk after the conservative, Vanguard has a balanced portfolio, which flips the allocations to 60-40, 60% equity. And then there's a growth strategy, 75-25% equity. And one of the nice things about the program is you are not stuck with one investment strategy. You have the ability, as the district to select between these four options to decide which level of risk you want to entertain under the different buckets of money, the OPEB and the pension bucket, so to speak. Each one of those buckets of money could be invested in separate strategies. Right now, you are both of those buckets of money are in the conservative strategy. That's not required. That's just what you selected. We do have some districts that do different allocations based on maybe different time horizons for the different pools of money. And so be aware that that exists, but right now everything is invested in the conservative. And as you kind of break that down, actually, Jen, can you blow that up a little bit for me? My eyes aren't the greatest. There you go. And you can see the expected rate of return that Vanguard publishes approximately quarterly. Right now, the 5-year expected return of the conservative strategy is a little bit over 6%, 10-year about 5.98%, and 30-year 6.22%. They've actually increased that recently. So even though the market has been very volatile in the equity markets and even the bond market, because interest rates are rising, 60% of your fixed income of your portfolio is in fixed income. And so with higher interest rates give you potentially higher returns on that 60%. And so they've actually increased their expected return on that. So if you can slide that back to normal size so we can see the full slide there. Thank you. And so you can go to the next slide. This is the returns, the 1-year, 3-year, 5 and 10-year returns.
I'm sorry, on your last slide, Eric,
yes, go
are
ahead.
those 5, 10 and 30-year moving forward from December 31, 22? Is that, when they say 5 years, is that like January 23 to 28 kind of?
They did this last projection was as of September 30th, 2022.
Okay.
That was the last time they adjusted those numbers. And so that would be, as of that point, 5 years forward,
Going
10 years
forward.
forward, and 30-year forward. Yes.
Okay, so Vanguard is actually predicting a 10-year return lower than a 5-year return for all their funds, obviously.
Yes.
So at least in the fixed income,
yes,
predominant funds.
Yes.
So, okay, that's interesting. All right, thank you.
Did I have a question?
Yes. Where do they have the actual performance of the past 5, 10, and 30 years?
Next slide.
There you go.
We're coming.
But
So,
it doesn't go out. The problem with the 10-year horizon is it misses the downturn, the 2008, 2010 downturn. So
yes.
we really need that 30-year column to see what happens when terrible things happen. And we're not seeing that. These past 10 years have been pretty rosy.
Yes, they have. They have. There's no question about that. And the 1 year reminds us of that, right? Is that the 21, 22 year was definitely down, and 2022 as a whole was down 14, almost 15%. The market, if I recall, in you mentioned 2008. I think 2008 was down almost 40%. I think the market was. Now this wouldn't have been, that would have been the equity market. This is still 30, 60. We don't have figures that far back. And so, we don't know exactly what this.
What? No. You don't, these funds.
No, we don't have, what I'm saying is we don't have figures. Vanguard hasn't provided us a 30-year number going backwards. So PARS doesn't have figures. So I can't speak to what it would have been. I'm sure Vanguard could do the calculation. So I'm with you. We haven't seen it. They've given us 10 years going forward. These funds are not, even, maybe they're about 10 years old. So they're getting close to 10 years old with us. So they have not been in existence that long, going back 30 years. They would have to do something hypothetical and figuring out what those funds were. And some of those funds may not have existed 30 years back. Some of the funds that they've selected may not have been. So, but if that's something you're interested in, we could talk to them about that. And
I
see
think
what
a
they-
longer time horizon benefits us when we're dealing with pensions and future long horizons. So seeing a past
Okay.
that's weathered all kinds of economic situations, I think is more interesting than a hypothetical future.
Yeah, no, we can work with them and see if they have what kind of figures they could provide us. And again, they would be hypothetical looking back because these strategies did not exist in this form. They did not manage these portfolios for us.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be actual to these performances, is what I'm saying. Is they would have been before the funds were put together for us and our clients.
Okay.
So, but I'm sure they could mark up something hypothetically, if they were in place, what they would have looked at. Okay, so as you can see, as you obviously get increased in equity exposure, obviously the rate of return over the 10-year period of time have gone up, but obviously the losses over the year were similarly higher. So that's the give and take as a board and as a district plan administrator. Candace has to look at what allocations is the district risk tolerance level. And right now you've selected conservative, which frankly for education entities, most of our educational entities are in the balanced conservative frame. Very few are fixed income only, or very few are in growth. Most are kind of right in the middle. So you're in good company. A lot of your client counterparts would either be in balance or conservative. And then, I think there's one more slide, or is that it? And then we have our contact information. So that's the information. We're happy to do some work with Vanguard to get that question answered, and we can provide that to Candace after once we get that.
I think what happened is I was looking at the other presentation. Maybe it was the December one.
That was the one for the full fund, Trustee Silver. So this is PCC specific.
I see, because those funds
But
go
we can
back
work
to
with
1992 and
right.
1986.
Yes, yeah, they're definitely most of the funds are probably 30 years old, and so they can definitely do some things to give you some projections of what it was if they were in place for those periods of time. They have the
So Candace, what was that other PDF then?
That's just for the fund, a general sort of overview of the fund itself, rather than PCC specific.
We provide a quarterly information packet that Vanguard provides us on a quarterly basis that has a whole bunch of slides and a bunch of information, and maybe it's actually built into there. I don't know. Maybe there was some information that we didn't see. But we'll work through with Vanguard to get you some specific information that'll get you that look.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Candace, too, for clarifying.
You're welcome. So at this point, do you have any questions for us? The only other comment that I would say is amongst school districts and colleges, almost 50% funded is very good. And so the fact that you as a district and board have prioritized your OPEB funding, and even the pension funding is an added feature, is ahead of many of your colleagues. And so you're doing a really good job with that.
What was our percentage funding in the pension again? OPEB was
46.
Yeah, it was about. We don't have that information on pension because you don't have an actuarial valuation per se. It's the fund itself.
But you have a $5.6 million set aside for that portion of the account.
Right.
And we don't have an estimate of our future liabilities?
You probably have something that you get from the retirement system that you put on your financial statements as a liability. But you don't do an actuarial valuation because you're in a pool. Maybe Candace could speak on that better than I can.
Yeah, Jesse, do you want to chat on?
Yeah,
the-
Jennifer, could you go back to the page where it
Reach on.
shows our liability and also our funded portion?
It's for,
I think it was the back. Yes, this is the page. So the right hand column is our latest actual report. So our plan is valued at 32 million, almost 33 million worth of liability. What that really means is if we have to cash out in a way as of that day, then that's what's going to cost the district. And then as of this point, we funded 15,695,000, and that constitutes about 47.6% of the plan fully funded.
I'm sorry, Jesse, I'm confused. I thought pension was different than, was it other public employee benefits? I thought.
Oh, correct. I'm
She's
sorry. This is the
referring to the-
OPEB.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so pension, we don't have an actual report just for PCC, because the system itself, the CalPERS system itself does a actual report for the whole entire system. And then in their giant report, PCC comes to just one little line. So it's difficult to see, our portion is like 0.56 or something. It's very minimal in the whole scheme of things. But the amount of liability is, for that little percentage, is huge. And this number that varies from year to year, depends on how the market performs and how much money that the district contributes and also how much the state contributes.
So Jesse, couldn't you go back to our last audit and grab a number from the audit that reflects the liability of STRS and PERS?
Yes, I agree.
And then compare that number to the 5 million or the 5.6 million that we have and kind of answer her question. I mean, I realize the dates may not be perfectly aligned if this is June 30, 21, but to the best you can, maybe as of June 30, 22 audit or June, whatever date is the most reliable, try to answer that question for trustee.
And the
Silver.
reason it's, I'm kind of picking at this is because I believe that our pension liability is going to be larger than our OPEB liability. And yet we've already got 17 million towards OPEB and only 5 or 6 towards our pension. Is that?
See, one thing that I might share that might help. Most of our clients, and this is just kind of anecdotal the way districts view things, is most districts view OPEB as kind of a local issue, versus the pension system is a statewide mandated program that you are in. And most districts don't look at the liability, which is, as you said, going to be massively bigger than $32 million. Number one, it's so big that it's not really practical to fund it. It's really more viewed as a statewide issue by most districts. And so most districts are looking at the pension trusts that work with us as more of a mitigation tool to deal with pension increases, pension contribution increases, and things like that. Not usually viewed as a way to offset or reduce a liability, because the number is so big. You'd be, my guess is it's hundreds of millions of dollars for you.
Trustee Silver, that's why, so you'll see a lot of advocacy and a lot of groups pushing for the state to really come to terms with the pension liability, because there should be more strategic and focused effort in terms of paying down the liability. So you will see a lot of groups sort of pushing And the state currently hasn't done, I think, what the state would expect, particularly in years where there has been additional funding, there could have been additional resources addressed there. So there's a lot of sort of
Like, didn't they
conversation at the state
pay
level.
2
related
percentage points a couple years ago?
to a couple years ago. I feel like this last year there were some, it's just they've maintained where the liability hasn't risen, but it hasn't really reduced. Like they haven't really, what's the best way to say it? And it's possibly because it's so large and such a daunting like sort of piece or nut to crack. They haven't made substantive progress towards addressing that liability for the state as a whole. So you'll see a lot of conversation when the governor's budget proposals and things are happening. Well, there'll be a lot of conversation about the pension liabilities.
So we
also-
missed an opportunity when we were in Sacramento to advocate for prudent investment for pensions. We didn't discuss that at all.
I don't know that you missed an opportunity. I don't think it's a secret. I'll say that. I don't think that this is a secret to an ongoing problem that really needs to be addressed. But you were going to say, Eric, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say is also because you are in a pool. If you were a city or a special district or what, you would have a special account with individual account with CalPERS, and you would have the ability to do a trust like ours, or even make additional contributions over and above a rate, or you would have your own rate. Because you're in a pool, you all pay the same contribution rate that Jennifer showed on that one slide, regardless of whether or not you're LA Unified or a small district. You're all making the same contribution. You have zero ability to increase benefits where a city might or did have the ability. So it's really a different animal as an educational entity because you're in those school pools. So, but you're really again ahead of many districts that don't address one or both like you have.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would still go back to her initial request, and the fact that the number is daunting doesn't mean that we shouldn't.
We can get that.
Yeah, and
I
I
have
think
that page pulled up.
whatever is simple enough for you,
Yeah.
just grabbing from the audit and comparing it to this on some reasonable date, I think would give her an answer, and that's.
I think
what
that's
we're-
great advice. Yes, we
Yeah.
can. Jesse, did you say you already had it?
I
or-
have the page pulled up.
All right.
Okay, so Jennifer, I'm gonna kick you off share.
Well, thank you for your time this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You too.
Well,
Any
thank
other
you.
questions for Eric or Jennifer, just before we let them get to their lives,
Thank you
their
guys so
own
much.
lives?
Thank you.
All righty, thank
Thank you.
you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So we will circle back then to our 311Q, and Candace and
Oh,
maybe
Jesse.
Jesse, we'll let you take it from there.
Jesse's going to do a quick show of where the audit numbers for the pension liability.
Oh, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no problem. So this is as of the last audit. So this is what we received. So they actually provided quite a nice chart all the way back to 2015. So as of the latest 2022, our share of the state CalSTRS valuation is about 11.89 or 0.1189% of the whole state share. And that constitutes about 81 million of liabilities. And
Why did it plummet from the years before?
it depends on how big the pool grow or reduce. Our share is associated with everybody else that's in the CalSTRS system. So if other district had a growth in their teaching staff, then our share, and then we happen to have a reduction in our teaching share. So our proportionate liability number shifts with everybody else, what's happening with other districts. And this will constitute all the teaching staff that's in the CalSTRS system. So that would be all of community colleges, instructors and the K-12 instructors. And
But the total dollars are like half.
yeah, it shifts based on how, how the pool grows and shrinks, and also how well the investment is doing for that particular year. So this is definitely the data before the market kind of took a little dive in the last year. So I'm sure this number, it looks really great at that point in time, but then when you receive the next audit report, this number will likely go back to somewhere over here. So this is for CalSTRS, and then for CalPERS, there are actually two pools. We are in the CalPERS SRP, so it's kind of like the traditional pool where most of our staffs are in. So we represent about 0.232% of that whole pool. And then this is our total liability, about 47 million that's associated with PCC staff. And then the next pool is called the CalPERS miscellaneous pool. We have very little staff that are in there. It's mainly made of our old bookstore staff. But they're still currently with us, and then some of them have retired, but we're still responsible for their pension. So they only represent about 0.05% of the total miscellaneous pool. And that's just shy of $1 million worth of liability that's associated with us. And that's it.
So altogether, if we look at 2021, we're
Hugging 130 million. Yeah.
166 plus 70, like 200, it's like $250 million. I always like the billion, Alton.
Yeah, so as far as we know, CalPERS is not going anywhere, so we don't have to worry about it in the short run.
Okay.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you.
Okay, so I believe I'm up next as well.
Okay.
311.
Yeah, okay, so let me share screen again. So this is our quarter 2 311 report, kind of demonstrate how we're doing as of December 31st. So I'm going to walk us through the different columns. There's a lot of number on this page. So I'm going to have you focus on a few with me. So the three columns to the left or to the middle here are actual historical data for fiscal year 2019-20, fiscal year 2020-21, and 21-22. So these
I'm
are
so
all
sorry,
historic.
Jesse.
Yeah.
Could you zoom in a little bit?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Help me.
I'm glad you said that.
Everybody's squinting. It's like, oh, what's going on?
Maybe
Okay,
just a
so-
little bit more, Jesse.
A little bit more?
Just a little bit.
How's this?
There you go.
Great.
Okay. All right. So all of these three columns are historic data for these 3 fiscal years. So for this far right column is this is our best data as of December 31st, 2022 of how we think the year will probably end up. And we are projecting that we're going to meet and exceed our obligated 18% of fund balance. And then next up is our cash balance. We do have a very healthy cash balance.
Why? Why is it so high?
This is as of because go ahead, Trustee Silver.
Yeah, a portion, the top line, row A.
Row A. Right here.
Yeah. Why is it so much larger than last year? Is that still the hold harmless? And then maybe
Sure. This is actually we received. We are in hold harmless. We also applied for the COVID emergency protection that give us another boost in our funding. And also in this year, the Chancellor's Office, because of additional revenue that the state received as a property tax and all these different taxes, they actually gave us an increase in our base funding. So that's why this number seems to be a lot larger than the one in the previous years.
Trustee Silver, it also includes our COLA, like the 6.56 for this fiscal year.
All right. And we haven't, okay.
Yeah.
So does that mean we could make another contribution to the OPEB?
We had already planned on making an additional contribution. So Jesse and I are working on these next few weeks of getting the money in the right location, fund source location, so we can make the contribution. Because we had reported that in our fiscal audit report in the December timeframe.
Nice.
Okay, so toward the bottom of the report is our actual expenses to date. So this column compares to how we plan to in our adopted budget, and then any type of movement that happened throughout the year. So as of December 31st, we're trending about halfway through in our revenue, and then we're just a little bit shy of halfway through for our expenses. But it mainly because this snapshot is as of December 31st. So the most of our union negotiated settlements has not been paid out at that time. So this is why this number seems a little lower than it should be. So in the next quarter 3, which will capture everything as of March 31st, this number you'll see to be a lot more closer than where it needs to be. And then next point I'd like to point out is this piece over here. So I apologize, this how this cut off is a little hard to read. But what it's trying to demonstrate is to demonstrate how much it costs the district for the union contracts that has been settled already. So this is as of December 31st, we settled the CFT contract for our classified folks, our CSEA, our maintenance and operation staff, and also our confidential staff. So we settled for the 6% retro increase and also the $3,000 one-time payment. So all of those combined will cost the district $2.5 million in salaries, and then a little over $700,000 in related benefits. And so the only two unionized group that have not been settled is the POA, the police force, and also FA, the faculty union. And that is it for this report.
Are there any questions related to the 311?
Wait, this was based on December 31st?
Mhm.
So maybe our FTES will be even better? Do you think? Can you speculate?
One would hope. But this is just sort of our FT. I mean, our budget is based on our previous on the hold harmless. So the 202 million is based on our hold harmless provisions from last, we're not really paid on our FTS yet, I guess is the easiest way to say that.
Yeah, it's based on 2018, 2019.
Correct. So coming years, we'll go back to when hold harmless expires, we'll go back to the hold harmless, I mean the FTS calculations. Or we'll get a new base set for us in 24-25.
Yes. I think that's it.
Okay. Anything else on that topic? Whoop, I just disappeared.
Oh,
I don't know how that happened. I think somebody turned me off. I get that a lot.
Is there an action we need to do on this to transmit this?
Do you need an action to recommend this to the board? Oh,
Yes,
okay. So
February
entertain a
15th.
motion.
Motion to, so moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Is that a hand up by PCC Lancer? Am I seeing that, or is that just something? No, that's just my hand on my scroll thing. Okay.
That's so interesting because mine was there too, looking like
Yeah, okay.
that is so
And
funny.
it's, instead of being a point, it was a hand for some
Yeah.
reason. So anyway, okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, I think that passes unanimously. Proposed meeting schedule, I believe, is next. I don't happen to remember when you need us to meet again?
Well, it has May 10th and June 14th on the schedule.
Okay. I'm just looking at a printout. So May 10th, you say?
Yeah, 6 p.m.
Which would be at that time, we'd probably be discussing our tentative budget.
Is this 4 o'clock time a better time for you all than 6 o'clock?
Doesn't matter.
I would personally prefer the 6 p.m. if possible.
Okay. All right. So May 10th, 6 p.m. And then proposed future agenda items.
Well, there's also June 14th at 6
Okay.
p.m.
Okay. Well, we can look forward to that.
Do we need those 1 month after another?
Yeah, we'll do tentative and then we'll do sort of the follow-up when the budget gets finalized in June.
Okay, it's fine.
Candace, I'm going to ask that at the board meeting, maybe you could have that if there was one slide that kind of highlighted our PARS investments, maybe that one that shows the 15, because when I have to report out, if you could just pop that slide up and it shows how much we have and about the return, whatever, then that'll go pretty quick.
Okay, we'll be prepared.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll send you, we received the updated slides right before the meeting, so we'll send you all that, so you have that for your
Yes, please.
records. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so if you have that there available so they can just see it and get a glimpse of it.
As you're doing your report out when we do the group
Committees.
committee report outs. Oh, yep.
Right. Okay. I think future agenda items. So you mentioned the tentative budget, I think, on the May 10th.
Mhm.
Correct. Yep.
And then, I'm sorry,
No, that's June 14th.
No, we'll do tentative budget in May.
Oh,
and then in June, you were going to circle back on adopted budget or something?
Yeah, it's not adopted because we do adopt it in September, but we get like when the governor has signed his the official budget happens in June. Now there's a budget trailer language that comes after that, which delays our adopted budget, but we get some sense of what the budget will be in June.
Okay, and when we get to the May meeting, if you have a sense that the June meeting is not necessary, we can
We'll let
discuss
you
it
know.
then. Or maybe you want it in
Date's different
July
based on
instead,
whenever
though.
it's passing.
Go ahead, Alden, say that again, please. I stepped on you.
No, I was just thinking, or if the date would be different just based on what happens. up
When
until-
it actually gets adopted. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I think that brings us to the end unless there's something else. Anything else from the members or anyone else?
Thanks, Ken.
Okay,
Thanks,
well,
Jesse.
thank you all. And it was a good meeting. Good to get all that info on that PARS and 311. And with that, we stand adjourned.
thank you.
Bye, everybody.
I'll see
Good
you next
night.